Wyoming is often known as the least populated state in the nation, a place of solitude and endless horizons. Yet beyond the famous images of vast prairies and legendary parks lies a land brimming with surprises, forgotten towns, unique rock formations, and natural phenomena that intrigue even the most seasoned scientists. Without further ado, let's uncover the secrets of Wyoming. Our journey begins at Devil's Tower, designated in 1906 as the first national monument in the United States. This dramatic rock formation, created by columns of solidified magma, rises from an open valley and can be spotted from miles away. For several tribes, it's a sacred place. The Lakota, for instance, call it Bear Lodge and tell stories of how a giant bear clawed at its walls, trying to reach people who sought refuge on its summit. The vertical cracks in this approximately 260 meters tall formation attract climbers from around the globe. But it's no easy climb. It demands technique, strength, and careful planning. In June, various native tribes hold spiritual ceremonies in the area, and many climbers choose to respect these traditions by not scaling the tower during that period. Thus, Devil's Tower is far more than just a climbing challenge. It's also a monument that speaks to the profound ancestral ties between humans and the land. Leaving Devil's Tower behind, we head to Sunlight Basin. The name, Sunlight, immediately makes sense at dawn, when orange and gold hues flood the meadows and forests. This valley is traversed by the winding Sunlight Creek, which snakes through green hills and rocky slopes. Historically, indigenous tribes hunted here, gathering plants and benefiting from the area's abundant deer and natural protection offered by the terrain. In the early 20th century, the Sunlight Creek Bridge was built nearly 90 meters above the waterway, and it still stands today as both a local thoroughfare and a vantage point that takes your breath away. The sense of isolation is remarkable. Few ranches, fewer roads, and very spotty cell service. Hiking along dirt trails, you might come across deer, elk, or even black bears, creatures that roam a landscape hardly changed from 100 years ago. This untouched quality makes Sunlight Basin one of Wyoming's most pristine regions, perfect for anyone seeking a deeper communion with nature. Moving on, the Wind River Range appears, a corridor of rugged gray and white peaks, some soaring above 4,000 meters in altitude. Mostly composed of granite, these mountains still harbor glaciers left from the last ice age. Although they've been steadily retreating since the mid-19th century due to climate change, many remain, feeding countless streams and alpine lakes. Trekking here is considered among the most challenging in the country, thanks to the elevation and tough terrain. Those who manage the longer routes describe nights in tents under unbelievably starry skies, where the Milky Way is so vivid it feels almost within reach. The mountain range is also known for having some of the oldest exposed rock in North America, formations up to 3 billion years old. These geological fossils draw scientists eager to unravel Earth's early history. Nearby, the Bighorn Mountains boast similarly ancient rock, even though they're physically separate from the Wind River Range. They were named after the bighorn sheep that once roamed in large numbers, scaling rocky ledges with sure-footed ease. Their numbers may have declined, but you can still spot them in higher elevations, moving with an agility born of life on the cliffs. Alongside the grandeur of these peaks, Shell Creek stands out for its pure waters, flowing about 80 kilometers before joining the Bighorn River. It's a trout fisherman's paradise, luring enthusiasts from far and wide who come in search of a prize catch. Many claim the trout here tastes especially rich due to the soil's mineral content and the creek's high oxygen levels. Titcomb Basin is another magnet for hikers and climbers, a glacial valley where surrounding peaks form a natural stone cathedral. One truly special feature here is the night sky. Free of light pollution, it reveals constellations, planets, and satellites with an almost surreal clarity. On new moon nights, the sparkling band of the Milky Way impresses even veteran astronomers. Getting there involves steep, lengthy trails, but once you make camp, you'll realize every step was worth it. In the heart of the Wind River Range lies the legendary Cirque of the Towers, a semicircle of sheer, rocky spires that draw climbers testing their limits on routes of varying difficulty. The trek to reach the Cirque is not trivial. A demanding hike brings you to a clearing with a full view of these towering granite walls. Summiting requires not just skill and fitness, but also experience handling abrupt weather changes and powerful winds. For a gentler, more peaceful setting, head to the Green River Lakes, fed by the Green River that has its source in these mountains. Two large glacial lakes are framed by pine forests and distant peaks, offering prime spots for camping, canoeing, and sunset fishing. On warmer days, a few brave souls might dip into the chilly waters typical of high-elevation lakes. The reflection of Square Top Mountain on the lake's surface is one of the area's most photographed scenes, and tranquility reigns here, confirming that Wyoming operates on a different pace. After marveling at the mountain majesty, it's time to discover a place that keeps the spirit of the Old West alive. Old Trail Town. Situated near a steady-flowing river, this open-air museum is a collection of authentic, late 19th century buildings relocated from across the region. Saloons, blacksmith shops, and rustic cabins line the dirt roads, where each footstep echoes as if in another era. You can see original artifacts from past owners, tools, worn saddles, even bottles of patent medicine from the 1800s. A small cemetery on-site contains the graves of legendary figures, including John Jeremiah Liver-Eating Johnston, whose tales of bravery and survival have become regional folklore. Standing by these headstones, it's nearly impossible not to imagine how the wild frontier shaped larger-than-life personalities driven by gold, land, or simply the thrill of starting anew, far from big cities. The land around Old Trail Town offers another breathtaking sight. Mustangs roaming free under a boundless sky. These horses descend from animals brought by Spanish explorers in the 16th century, which either escaped or were released, adapting to the high plains with remarkable endurance and survival instincts. Over time, they've become a potent symbol of Western freedom and resilience. Spotting them in the wild takes patience, as they typically prefer secluded areas far from humans. Some herds occupy managed lands, where researchers monitor their populations to ensure balance with local ecosystems. In spring, foals run carefree among the mares, a scene straight out of a classic Western movie. Those who've witnessed it often call it unforgettable, a testament to nature's ability to adapt and thrive despite the odds. Shifting gears to southwestern Wyoming, the terrain morphs into a sea of sand. The Kilpecker Dunes form one of the largest active dune fields on the planet, stretching roughly 100 kilometers. There are two main sections. To the north, off-road vehicles are permitted, attracting adventurers in ATVs and jeeps, while the southern portion is a research area focused on conservation and wildlife study. One especially intriguing phenomenon here is the singing or booming dunes. When the wind blows or someone slides down a dune, the grains of sand vibrate in unison, creating a low-pitched hum that echoes across the desert, as if the land itself has found its voice. Scientists chalk it up to friction among quartz grains, but for anyone who experiences it, the effect feels almost mystical. Some interpret the sound as wandering spirits, adding to the dune's reputation as both lively and hushed. a reminder that Earth's surfaces are ever shifting and alive. Nearby stands Boar's Tusk, a volcanic plug roughly 120 meters high, what's left of an ancient volcano's core after the softer exterior eroded away. Its shape, reminiscent of a boar's tusk, makes it an unmistakable landmark in the arid expanse. For those venturing along the area's dirt roads, the tusk is a natural compass, proof that in the apparent emptiness of the desert, extraordinary natural monuments await discovery. Moving on from the dunes, our itinerary leads us to Star Valley in western Wyoming. Flanked by mountain ranges that resemble the Alps, it has earned the nickname America's Little Switzerland. Green meadows, dairy pastures, and small farms dot the landscape, where life seems to move at a gentler pace. The seasons here are strikingly distinct. Heavy snow in winter, vibrant blooms in spring, clear sunny days in summer, and golden foliage in fall. The Salt River meanders calmly through Star Valley for about 140 kilometers, creating rapids in some areas and smooth currents in others. It's an ideal habitat for trout and an inviting spot for rafting, fishing, or even a lazy summer float on an inner tube. The name Salt comes from the natural salt deposits found along its banks. Long before settlers arrived, native peoples gathered salt here to preserve foods and cure hides. Today, the tradition continues through the casual enjoyment of picnics on the riverbanks, where crystal-clear water reflects a postcard-perfect serenity. At the heart of Star Valley lies Afton, the valley's largest town with just over 2,000 residents. It's a cozy community that draws visitors in with local cuisine or serves as a supply point for those exploring backroads through the mountains. Afton's most famous landmark is the Elk Antler Arch, erected in 1958 and built with over 3,000 naturally shed antlers. Spanning 18 meters across the main street, it feels like a ceremonial gateway to daily life in the valley. A popular nearby attraction is Swift Falls, a waterfall of about 15 meters in height, just a short drive from town. Its easy access makes it a hit for families looking to enjoy the falls without a strenuous hike. In warmer months, people of all ages can be found dipping their feet in the cool water or picnicking on the surrounding rocks. Afton preserves that welcoming small-town feel, where there's never any hurry. Locals and long-term visitors alike describe a sense of peace that remains a balm in an increasingly hectic world. Continuing northwest, we reach the renowned Grand Teton National Park, over 125,000 hectares of protected land established in the late 1920s. The Teton Range rises abruptly above the Jackson Hole Valley, with peaks exceeding 4,000 meters, including the Grand Teton itself, at about 4,198 meters tall. The contrast between these summits and the alpine lakes, reflecting them, produces one of North America's most photographed vistas. The region's human history runs deep. Native peoples hunted and gathered here for generations before the first European explorers arrived in the 19th century. Over time, conservationists fought to preserve this remarkable landscape, leading to the park's creation. Today, hikers, climbers, and photographers come to experience jagged peaks, wildflower meadows, and abundant wildlife, like elk, bears, and eagles, all in a place whose grandeur remains unmatched. Two must-see spots in Grand Teton National Park are Jenny Lake and Mormon Row. Jenny Lake is an alpine lake, chiefly fed by glacial melt from the Tetons. Its cold, clear waters are popular for boating and kayaking, especially in summer. The lake is named for Jenny Lee, a Shoshone woman who married a fur trapper and lived in the area's early settlement days. Trails of varying difficulties circle the lake, offering overlooks, waterfalls, and pockets of absolute quiet where you can hear the flutter of birds' wings. Mormon Row, on the other hand, is a historic district where members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints built barns, cabins, and basic irrigation systems at the tail end of the 19th century. The T.A. Moulton Barn may be the most photographed structure here. While it was simply meant to store hay and shelter livestock, it becomes grand when framed against the Tetons at sunrise or sunset. The interplay of humble human handiwork and epic natural backdrops captures the essence of Mormon Row, a reminder of the hardships faced by pioneers who sought new beginnings in harsh, remote settings. Among the many bodies of water in the park, Jackson Lake stands out for both its size and origin. Sculpted by glaciers during the last ice age, it sits over 2,000 meters above sea level and serves as a controlled reservoir thanks to a dam built in the early 20th century. The Snake River feeds into Jackson Lake before continuing its winding journey through neighboring states. Though partially man-made, the lake retains a peaceful atmosphere, surrounded by mountains mirrored on its still surface like a giant reflective pool. Beneath its cold waters swim lake trout that can grow surprisingly large. Yet another draw for anglers from across the country. Recreational activities go beyond fishing. You'll often see families paddling in canoes or kayaks, stopping in quiet coves to watch birds and other wildlife. For those who prefer simply to bask in natural beauty, there's nothing quite like sitting by the shore, listening to gentle waves and contemplating how these landscapes, though majestic, remain vulnerable to climate shifts and human impact. All around the park and in many other wild areas of Wyoming, coyotes thrive thanks to their incredible adaptability. Whether in plains, forests, or higher elevations, if there's food, coyotes find a home. They're omnivores who hunt rabbits, rodents, insects, and occasionally feast on fruit. Their nighttime howls, often in groups, rise from the land itself, reinforcing the sense that here, nature still runs the show. In some farming regions, conflicts arise when coyotes target livestock, but these canines play a crucial ecological role. They manage rodent populations and scavenge carrion that might otherwise spread disease. Social by nature, they form tight-knit family units, with pups learning to hunt within a few short months. Spotting one dart across a trail or an open field is a reminder that coyotes have been part of this landscape long before modern roads and fences. Two more special corners of Grand Teton National Park are Holly Lake and Granite Falls. Holly Lake, reached by a trek of around 20 kilometers, rests in a high alpine nook beneath snowy peaks and short, rugged vegetation. It's so remote that silence reigns, broken only by birdsong or the wind rustling through rocky slopes. At night, free of light pollution, the Milky Way stretches across the sky in a brilliant sweep that's truly beyond words. Granite Falls is a modest drop in height, but grand in both sight and sound. Water cascades over granite ledges, forming crystal pools that stay cold year-round. Located in a quieter northern section of the park, it draws those who prefer less traveled routes. On sunny days, the spray can catch the light just right, forming fleeting rainbows, proof that sometimes even a smaller waterfall can dazzle you more than any towering human construction. In the Jackson Hole Valley, the town of Jackson is a microcosm of Wyoming. Rodeos, alpine scenery, horse ranches, and a vibrant tourism economy. Founded as a hub for fur trappers, Jackson has evolved into one of the country's premier ski destinations. Yet there's plenty beyond winter sports. Summer brings hiking, mountain biking, and river rafting on the Snake River, involving locals and visitors in outdoor pursuits nearly year-round. Downtown Jackson is known for its wood-fronted buildings, rustic signs, and the iconic elk antler arches at the town square. While boutique shops and high-end restaurants reflect a modern vibe, the ranching traditions remain strong. This blend of Old West heritage and contemporary flair shows that Wyoming continues to grow without losing the spirit that shaped its frontier identity. About 145 kilometers east of Jackson lies Cody, named for William Buffalo Bill Cody, famous in the late 19th century for his traveling shows that popularized life on the frontier. Buffalo Bill left a heritage you can feel in every corner of this town. Wooden storefronts, Western-style signage, and museums devoted to the American West all pay homage to that history. The Buffalo Bill Center of the West is a multi-museum complex covering everything from indigenous cultures to the region's natural history. Its collection includes historic firearms, furs, native artifacts, and personal items once owned by Buffalo Bill himself. In summer, Cody really comes alive with its renowned nightly rodeo, one of the world's largest outdoor rodeos, attracting both participants and fans who crave the rush and the celebration of time-honored traditions. Live music, dance performances, and even horse-drawn carriages fill the streets, evoking an era when the open plains were traversed by stagecoaches. For those who want to go off the beaten path, scenic roads and trails extend to canyons and rivers, perfect for fishing or wildlife spotting. Winter transforms the surroundings with snowfall that offers opportunities for snowmobiling and ice climbing. But year-round, Cody keeps the Old West spirit alive, proving that heritage is more than a performance. It's part of everyday life in this community. Venturing into more secluded territory, you might come across Piedmont, sometimes spelled Pedmont, or what remains of it. Today, it's a ghost town, a vestige of the steam locomotive era and the industrial boom of the 19th century. Abandoned structures hint at a time when Piedmont was a vital stop for trains needing water and coal, with freight cars hauling mineral resources through the plains and locals eking out a living by tending to the railroad's needs. The most striking feature is the Piedmont charcoal kilns, a group of stone beehive ovens used to produce the charcoal that fueled nearby smelters. These towering structures, about 4 meters high, still stand, an almost archaeological monument to an era when industrial progress followed the railroad but left certain places behind once technology and economics shifted. Walking among them now is an eerie, fascinating glimpse into how swiftly fortunes can change. Another of Wyoming's remarkable landscapes is found along the Flaming Gorge Green River Scenic Byway, which parallels the Green River through some truly striking geology. Flaming Gorge itself is a deep canyon glowing with layers of red rock under the bright sun, while the river below carves the cliffs into graceful arcs for some 160 kilometers. From various viewpoints, you can watch golden eagles and hawks circling overhead in search of prey. The Green River springs from the Wind River Range, eventually winding southward through arid plains. It supports a vibrant ecosystem of native fish and wildlife drawn to its banks for sustenance. Anglers come here for trout, but rafting and kayaking are popular too. Geologically, the colored rock strata, representing millions of years of Earth's history, make the byway a fascinating outdoor museum for anyone curious about our planet's evolution. For many, the grand finale of any Wyoming trip is visiting Yellowstone, the first national park in the world, established in 1872. Its reputation is well-deserved. This colossal sanctuary is home to geysers, hot springs, mountains, and abundant wildlife. Volcanic activity beneath the surface powers thousands of geothermal features, fumaroles, mud pots, and geysers that shoot steaming water high into the air. Yellowstone's history is a milestone in conservation. Its extraordinary landscapes stirred debate in the U.S. Congress, resulting in a groundbreaking decision to preserve this area for future generations. Native peoples had long known about these wonders, using them for hunting and thermal baths. Early 19th century explorers returned with astonishing tales of boiling pools and steaming vents, which few believed until official expeditions confirmed them. Today, even with millions of yearly visitors, Yellowstone still holds vast tracts of wilderness for those willing to venture beyond the main roads. Two animals in particular stand out in Wyoming's wide-open spaces. First, the American bison, a true heavyweight reaching up to 1,000 kilograms, wanders the meadows of Yellowstone and beyond, sweeping aside snow with their heads to find grass in winter. Once on the brink of extinction, their numbers dwindled to just a few hundred before conservation efforts helped them rebound, symbolizing both the destructive power and the capacity for redemption of humankind. The second is the pronghorn, often called the American antelope, though not technically an antelope. Lean and swift, pronghorn can hit speeds close to 100 kilometers per hour, ranking them among the fastest land mammals in the world. You'll spot them in groups, grazing on open plains or sprinting across back roads. They evolved this speed to evade predators long gone, like the American cheetah, but still retain their astonishing ability to rocket across the horizon in mere seconds. Seeing pronghorn in action is a striking reminder of how evolution sculpts both elegance and power over millennia. Two of Yellowstone's crown jewels are Old Faithful and Grand Prismatic Spring. Old Faithful might be the most famous geyser on the planet, thanks to its relatively predictable eruptions, roughly every 90 minutes, sending water and steam soaring dozens of meters high. Crowds gather to witness this raw geothermal force, and when it's over, a lingering mist hangs in the air, a testament to the volcanic system churning beneath the park. Grand Prismatic Spring, the largest hot spring in the United States, mesmerizes everyone who sees it, whether in person or from an aerial view. At its center, water exceeds 70 degrees Celsius, yielding a brilliant blue hue. As the water cools toward the outer edges, an array of heat-loving microbes creates vibrant rings of orange, yellow, and green. It's like staring at a living rainbow of steam and color. A boardwalk lets you admire this phenomenon safely, as the fragile ground around it can be dangerously thin. Yellowstone brims with other wonders in perfect harmony with nature. Take Gibbon Falls, for instance, where the Gibbon River tumbles down a wide, fan-shaped cascade. It's not especially tall, but the breadth of flowing water cascading over rocks makes it an especially photogenic spot. A short trail leads to scenic overlooks, so you don't have to be a hardcore hiker to soak up the view. Then there's Lamar Valley, in the park's northeast corner, often called the American Serengeti, for its large bison herds and free-roaming wolf packs. Spring blankets the valley with wildflowers and newborn bison calves, while winter snows make it easier to spot wolves on the hunt. Guided wildlife watching tours run year-round, revealing a different side of this ecosystem each season. It's one of the continent's wildest places, a testament to Yellowstone's enduring role as a safe haven for wildlife. Traveling north in Yellowstone leads you to Mammoth Hot Springs, a complex of travertine terraces that resemble towering limestone steps. Hot water bubbles up from underground, carrying minerals that solidify as the water cools, forming wavy, cream-colored layers streaked with algae and bacteria in shades of green and orange. The terrain is perpetually in flux. When a spring slows down, the terraces dry out and turn white. When flow rates remain strong, you can watch new steps literally forming beneath the warm water. Local tribes were aware of these springs long before. Scientific studies attributing healing properties to the hot waters. Even today, scientists study the thermophilic microbes thriving in these extreme conditions, offering insights that could benefit medicine or even astrobiology. Simply walking the boardwalks, feeling the heat rising from the ground, is an unforgettable experience, like standing on living rock that breathes just beneath your feet. Rounding out this whirlwind tour of Wyoming, we arrive in Cheyenne, the state capital perched on a high plain. With around 65,000 residents, it's home to key government buildings and remains a major railway and highway junction. The city is famous for Cheyenne Frontier Days, one of the world's largest outdoor rodeos, held each July. For more than a week, crowds gather to watch bull riding, calf roping, and barrel racing. Traditional parades with historic wagons and live music flood the streets, keeping a century-old Western celebration alive. Wyoming's state capitol, completed in 1890, is another highlight. Its gold-leaf dome is visible from afar, gleaming under the plain's bright sun. Built in a neoclassical style, it offers tours that delve into local history, including Wyoming's pivotal role in granting women the right to vote in the late 19th century. Though Cheyenne has grown into a modern, bustling city, it preserves its cowboy spirit, linking the legacy of pioneers with new cultural and economic ventures. So there you have it, a side of Wyoming that few truly explore, filled with natural wonders, cultural heritage, and surprises at every bend in the road. From towering rock formations and valleys where wild horses gallop free, to singing deserts and ancient mountain glaciers, this state reveals a world of contrasts under its massive skies. Whether you're listening to travelers' accounts or simply taking in the silence between towering peaks, you'll soon realize Wyoming isn't just about postcard sites. It's a fusion of indigenous stories, pioneer grit, weather extremes, and a deep-rooted passion for preserving the land. Every corner has something to share. You just need open eyes and an open heart to grasp the grandeur of this place.